I think one thing people should realize is that our gut, which is the same surface area as a tennis court inside of us, is literally our skin turned inside out. And one of the things that's really hard for me and other people to get their head around is that everything that we swallow and all of our gut microbiome, the 100 trillion organisms that live inside of us, actually is outside of us. Uh, the the example I use is if I'm going in a tunnel under a river, uh, I see a car going into the tunnel and it comes out the other side of the river and it's not wet. And yet I definitely saw it go into the river. Well, why isn't it wet? Well, because that passageway was actually outside of the river. And what's really weird is everything that we eat, everything that lives in there is outside of us in contact with outside of our skin. And what that means is that the skin is a barrier to outside influences, but we know that the skin can absorb things. We know it can absorb sunscreen, for instance, which is a bad thing. It can absorb vitamin D if we put on it. So everything that goes into us is outside of us, but we have the same barrier that's only one cell thick. And so things that happen on the inside skin, because it's actually the same tissue, is frequently reflected on the outside skin. So that if you've got, for instance, psoriasis, let's just use that as an example, that's a really good indication that the inside skin, the lining of your gut, looks just as bad and is just as inflamed as what you're seeing on the outside. Eczema, for example, if you've got eczema, there's eczema on the inside of your gut as well. Uh, Even acne. Acne is a sign of a disturbance on the inside of you that's now showing up on the outside. A lot of middle-aged women have adult acne called rosacea, and they get all these creams and all this stuff. Every one of them in my practice, we see that they have a damaged inner gut lining and they have a damaged microbiome. And when we fix that damage, they don't need any creams. It all goes away. When we fix that damage, people's psoriasis goes away. It all clears up. Their eczema clears up. So, yeah, it's what happens inside the gut doesn't stay inside the gut. It lets you know often on your skin.
Yeah, God, there's so much there just to unpack with that first question there. You gave a couple different examples of some of these skin. I don't know if they would be disorders or diseases. You kind of talked about eczema, psoriasis, acne, even the adult acne that you will see in middle-aged women. What is it the differences in the or within the gut that is going to reveal or produce those different, uh, I guess, external looks?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We know, at least from my experience and others now, that all autoimmune conditions come from a leaky gut. In fact, Hippocrates, the father of medicine 2,500 years ago, said all disease begins in the gut. The guy was right. What he should have said, but he didn't know at that time, is that all disease comes from a leaky gut. And how that manifests, whether it's eczema, whether it's psoriasis, whether it's acne or rosacea, probably has more to do with actually the bacterial species in our gut. For instance, we know, and I talk about in gut check, that people with psoriasis have a distinct microbiome, a dysbiotic microbiome. In other words, there's certain bacterial species that are fairly unique to people with psoriasis that people like you or me who don't have psoriasis uh, don't have. And when we reestablish a more healthy gut microbiome of biodiversity and we seal the leaky gut, then the psoriasis resolves. which is kind of what I do. I actually still see patients 6 days a week, even on Saturdays and Sundays. So because I get to see all this happen all the time.